What is up, my fellow trash mammals? I, Bradley Overrated, and also a trash mammal himself, am here to talk to you about the PlayStation 6. Why are we talking about the PlayStation 6? Well, I don't know. It's just because a lot of rumors and stuff is now floating around about the PlayStation 6. Stuff that I don't report on or care about. But all the same, I was sitting here. Well, I wasn't sitting here. I was actually taking a nice hot shower. That's right. I was taking a shower and I was thinking about the PlayStation 6 for whatever reason. It popped up into my head and I had this thought of what would be a really good launch title for the PlayStation 6. Because when I was looking back at the PlayStation 5, it was fine in terms of launch titles, but it wasn't anything too spectacular or special. But at the same time, there was one particular title that everyone seemed to gravitate towards during the PlayStation 5's launch, and that was the Demon Souls remake. A pretty good remake, let me just say. I didn't finish the whole game, but I did check it out and play through it, and it looks really good. It was a really well done remake of a PlayStation 3 title. But all the same, I was just kind of thinking to myself, what would I do if, I was a big corporate executive sitting back in my $4,000 chair, smoking my money cigar because I'm so filthy rich while the developers work hard and don't make enough money. But if I was one of those execs and I needed a title for the PlayStation 6, what would be the best launch title possible? Because let's just get real here. The PlayStation 5 hasn't been exactly great in terms of exclusives or the big bang type of games. I mean, even a lot of their supposed exclusives turned out to just not be. I mean, look at God of War Ragnarok, for example. It was supposed to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but it released also with the PlayStation 4. The same thing can be said for Horizon Forbidden West. The same thing can be said for a bunch of their other titles. And then we got so many different remakes and remasters. I mean, Days Gone remaster, Last of Us Part 2 remaster. It's just, we got so many of those that we want some fresh blood. I mean, just thinking about it, 5 years into the PlayStation 5's life cycle, and we're still getting PlayStation 4 games for it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, the remakes, just came out for the PlayStation 5 as well as the PlayStation 4. Just to put that in perspective, we're still getting a healthy amount of PlayStation 4 titles. And since we all know about the whole concept of diminishing returns, where graphics could only seem to improve so much and all of this stuff, the PlayStation 6, it's going to be very limited. I fully expect the PlayStation 6 to be bare minimum 4K 30 frames per second at this point, because otherwise it's just, there really won't be any point. And I honestly want all games at that point to be 4K 60, like bare minimum if you're going to release a new console. So, but we all don't care too much at this point about technology and the specs of a console. We want the games. We want the juicy, delectable, yummy tasting games. And if you saw the title, obviously you know where I'm going with this. Because if you're going to launch a new console, you have to have a very appealing title, at least one big title that a lot of people want. And the PlayStation fan base has that title. They've been asking for it for years now. They've been saying, Sony, we want a Bloodborne remaster, a proper Bloodborne remaster that can run at 60 frames per second, because Bloodborne on the PlayStation 4 runs at 30 frames, but they want one that can run at least at 60 frames per second with updated visuals and all the DLC content included into one bundle that runs at bare minimum 1080p, 60 frames, if not more. And they are aware, trust me, Sony is aware that everybody, including myself, wants a Bloodborne remaster. And like I said, if I was a Sony exec trying to sell people on a PlayStation 6, understanding that there's not going to be so much diminishing returns, understanding that I have to find a way to sell people on another console, I need to have a game that I know that everybody wants. And so if I were a Sony executive, I'd say, you know what? Let's hold off on launching Bloodborne Remaster like we were planning, because I think it's already done. I think, honestly, it's just sitting there. Let's instead move it over to the PlayStation 6 as a launch title. And you know what? I think it is a really good move, because even I have to admit, while I'm not interested in the slightest in a PlayStation 6, if they released Bloodborne for it, remastered, and I got 4K 60 FPS for Bloodborne? For the new console? Plus, if there's that rumored, handheld that's to be believed, and that could play Bloodborne Remastered in handheld at 1080p, 60 juicy FPS? Okay, yeah, that might make me want to buy a PlayStation 6. Which is very ironic, I must say, because considering all the remasters and remakes we got for the PlayStation 5, and everybody's saying that they are sick of them, and rightfully so, I think it's totally fine, we all have to admit, we'd make a special exception for Bloodborne, right? We'd make that ever so slightly, okay, I know it's another remake of a game or whatever, remaster if you will, but it's Bloodborne. It's good, man. Have you played Bloodborne? It's so good. It's so fun. Probably my favorite Souls game. So yeah, we'd all be willing to tolerate this particular remake and remaster. And if I was Sony, I'd launch it for the PlayStation 6. I would release this game as a launch title, which is why in 2025, right here, right now, I'm going to predict that Bloodborne remaster, remake, re-bloody, whatever you want to call it, is going to come out in sometime whenever the PlayStation 6 releases, and it's going to be a launch title. Bloodborne, I'm calling it here right now, is going to launch on the PlayStation 6 as a PlayStation 6 exclusive, and it's probably going to entice a lot of us to try to buy a PlayStation 6. And hey, I could be wrong, and I would be happy to be wrong. I would be very happy if they launched it at some point before, the PlayStation 6. But I just got this feeling, and we could come back, several years later, or if and when Bloodborne Remastered does inevitably get released, and we can laugh at me and tell me how wrong I was. But this is just my prediction, and now, obviously, I'm going to pass it off to you. What do you think about my prediction? Do you think Bloodborne will come out before the PlayStation 6, or do you think it will come out as a launch title, or maybe even it'll come out just on the PlayStation 6, just down the road a little ways? 2029, maybe 2030, which that's painful just to think about. Thank you so much for watching this. I am Bradley Overrated, out like a trout. Praise be to Yevon, my friends, and I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you on the next one. Whenever that is. I have to do everything on the PlayStation 5, and I can't edit even my thumbnails very well, so it sucks. There's no other way to get around it. It just sucks. Okay, I'm doing my best. Later.